feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter. Feeling like I gotta get it, that's a court order. Feeling like
But that's just going to be something I think that will be ironed out in training camp and in the preseason. And somebody who's good or that we like might not be in the rotation to start the season. I think Troy Brown would be one example of that, but maybe even it's Shake having his minutes, having a small, I mean, it's got to be somebody, right? Like,
I know. I'm just saying. I was texting people today about like the Shake Milton like retirement party. Like when he's all said and done, like where do they hang the jersey? Is there enough room in the rafters? Because that's the type of guy that this team I feel like has never really had. Like you've been like, oh, it'd be great if Jamal Crawford could do it, but it's like, yeah, he's 39. Or like it'd be great if Jalen Noel could do it, but it's like, yeah, he doesn't really like to shoot threes or make them. So he was great, and now it's almost unplayable with those two guys. The Kyle Anderson stuff continues to kind of be a roller coaster, but yeah, Mike and Rudy is like this team's vegetables in a sense. Like you can't just have a full day of vegetables. I will preach that, but you need to have some of it, and Finch probably at times needs to have more vegetables because it is so efficient, it is so strong, and it's just another weapon that I think there's ways to still get Carl and Ant in that mix, like I've loved when Rudy catches kind of that pass in the middle of the court, and then he kind of does the Draymond thing where he turns and throws it to someone. So there's a lot of other actions off of that, but that's something that they can go to, especially maybe not late in games because you're still, dealing with Rudy maybe getting fouled and having to go to the free throw line. But it's another action that's totally different than what Carl or Ant gives them, and it's something to keep monitoring because when that's good, this team again it's not even the ceiling. Like you said, the floor is okay, they'll get a bucket, or they'll at least get a good shot here, and that's all you want sometimes late in the fourth. I mean, I think you and Chris and Jace and Britt have done a really good job. I kind of blew my load yesterday I made a page of notes on this. Again, I know I'm biased. I enjoy watching the kid from watching him in college. I enjoy his story, and for the most part, he's surpassed he was drafted 28th. Right? Like he was drafted, I know I said the trade that they acquired him in, he was selected behind Leandro Bolmero, who is not in the league. So what he's done in these first 4 years, I think, is really impressive. I also think outside of that wall thing, I've interviewed that wall, I've seen that wall. It is a hidden wall behind a curtain. But outside of that one moment, I mean, he hasn't, the Mike Conley situation the other night, like he's literally just going to fight Dennis Schroeder for Mike. And when the Rudy Gobert thing happened, he was kind of the guy that got in there to break it up. And I think he's a really good teammate. To the general point of he hasn't taken the offensive leap, all that stuff, I'm with you. I don't think he's like free of blame, but I also just wonder back to your point about like we're arguing about the fifth guy in the totem pole. It's like, yeah, man, the Minnesota Timberwolves fan base has eaten ramen for so many years, and now you have like a 5-course meal, and you're so concerned about like the dessert. It's like, dude, you're eating steak and mashed, like everything is really good, and this guy. But this whole series, I mean, Dana, your tweet was perfect. It was like the Wolves are asking Carl to guard Jokic and like, hey, can you also be good on offense? And that's a lot. And then you quote tweeted and said, oh, he did it. Like he did both things. So
how many people thought that Karl Anthony Towns would be able to do that?
Well, I know Tom Thibodeau didn't. So to win it 3 hours after Tibbs got eliminated was real sweet for me, especially because the third quarter was a Jimmy Butler Corona commercial. So big day for Karl Anthony Towns and his haters. But he was just steady, right? I mean, we've talked about that in the Phoenix series too. Those bursts. It was a burst again tonight. He had 23 points and 12 rebounds. I honestly think the rebounds, when you go back and watch again, they were just those, we kind of snatch rebounds. Like they just were big rebounds when it was in traffic and like Aaron Gordon was draped all over him. And for a team that has lost playoff series before because they couldn't rebound, I mean, Karl led the way tonight with 12. I just, really impressive performance, really impressive all around. And then, yeah, the fact that he can just, like we talked about Dane after game 6, force Jokic a foot further from where he wants to catch it, right? Just go under those screens. That was a nice adjustment they made, I think, in game 6. He just refused to let Aaron Gordon in those 4 or 5 screens, like, switch him. So he didn't give up. It's one of my pet peeves, Britt, is when I think teams just give up on the switch too much. Right. And he fought through it. So, I know not that Bill Simmons is the be-all, end-all, but he even said it too. This was this game, to win a Game 7 on the road, this series, to beat KD, now to beat Jokic. Karl's primary, he defended KD and he defended Jokic. No one had a better change of their legacy and their narrative than Karl, and he deserves it because, to Britt's point, he's made a lot of sacrifices. He went down to the 4. He gave the franchise keys over to the 22-year-old, and he never really complained about it. You were just saying, I mean, I don't know. This is really niche, but I don't know if you've ever seen that kind of viral video where that guy is like watching horse racing and he's just getting up like on his own pretend horse. That's the exact movement I did. I stood up in front of my TV and started riding my own fake horse when Nikhil picked up Jamal Murray full court, and then him and Jaden just escorted him to Azkaban on that one possession. I mean, people were yelling in the crowd like it was almost like the Simpsons thing, like, stop, he's already dead. It was incredible. They had 3 or 4 24-second shot clock violations. I don't know, man. They told me Suns in 4. They told me Gobert couldn't guard on the perimeter. They told me, Jaden gets a pay raise next year. Nikhil was a throw-in. They exercised a lot of demons in game 1. It's a long series. You got to win 4. You don't count your chickens, especially the ones that Glenn Taylor kills. But you did exactly what you needed to do in the first game to kind of reset everything. And what did I say last week, right? Like bleep chess, it's more boxing. They punched back, and they punched back early. And I think that set the tone a little bit.
I say that to mean, like, let's acknowledge what Kyle Anderson isn't doing this year. It's not the player that he was last season. He's playing a different position. Maybe something's going on with the eye. There's clearly something going on with the shot. But to dismiss his value completely, I think would be us being overly reactive, swinging one way or the other with it. So I'd say that to lead into Kyle Anderson, who I know you wanted to talk about too.
No, I think he is the most interesting person to talk about for everything you just said. I do think Kyle Anderson is like Chris Finch's cruise control. That, like, if Chris Finch was driving on a road trip and he's got 4 kids and they're starting to lose their shit in the back, like, he can put Kyle Anderson on and turn around and start, like, lecturing him, or get everything in order. Like, when things aren't going well and Ant's out of control, or Nas has a couple turnovers.
Like an iPad to a 5-year-old.
Yes. Yeah. Kyle Anderson is an iPad to a 5-year-old. So
that's
Jaden McDaniels makes less money this season than his brother, Jalen McDaniels, that half of us don't know where he plays. It's the Raptors. Jaden McDaniels makes less money than everyone's least favorite Timberwolf, Shake Milton. Okay? And this pod, to sum it up, is the growing pains, young kids making mistakes pod, right? We did 30 minutes on Ant. The Jaden stuff. We have gone over this. He is my favorite player. I have a level of respect for him simply because, yes, he punched a wall, but he's not a malcontent. He gets asked to do some of the shittiest things that a coach can ask a player without much reward. What did Finch say 48 hours ago? The team doesn't pass him the basketball. Like, that would help, right? And last night, his 6th foul was atrocious. Not because the officials were atrocious. No, they were right. Ant makes that live ball, jumps in the air, doesn't have anywhere to go, turnover, throws it to Jaden in the corner. Tatum is 7'4", steals it, and then Jaden's first reaction, and he does it all the time, because I have a Jaden cam, like ESPN, Jaden immediately turned and, like, kind of grabbed Tatum. So now you have fouled out, it's a transition take foul. Like, that's the type of stuff, as much as we want to be like, yeah, Ant had the pass to Mike against Golden State, Gold Star. Ant had 5 turnovers last night down. That was one of the down ones for Jaden, right? Jaden McDaniels finished last night with 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. I kind of thought he was awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
the bad Jaden's, like, the worst Jaden games were previously. Yeah, you can't just look at the box score with
But what did he do? What did he do? Not even 24 hours. What did he do 17 hours ago against one of the most rising, up-and-coming Washington's own Paolo Banchero? He locked his ass down. And yes, I had to get that off my chest too, because I've gotten so many, he's not living up to the value of his contract. He's making like the GDP of Guam compared to like a powerful country. Like all right, that was professional. You know the one thing that was absolute bullshit? It's not the budget thing from Woj. It's the 3rd tweet of that tweet. And this is the most condescending fucking shit to fans. After decades of futility, that is the hot dog costume meme of we're all trying to figure out who did this. Okay, so yeah, Dane and I are so separate on this because he's a reporter and I'm a fan. But I am a little entrenched in one side because you know when the decades of futility stopped? It's when new ownership came in and was allowed to do the Rudy Gobert trade and bring Tim Conley in, who, why would he ever come here? Well, he did come here and he's changed this. And you've done excellent reporting on that equity thing. And again, I still don't get it if you want to rehash that or just go listen to Dane's pod. But then also like the concept of this opt-out that he has. That was condescending because, again, the Woj thing came from someone in Glenn's camp. And to say, after 20 years of this thing not being on the tracks, it's finally on the tracks. Well, why the fuck wasn't on the tracks? Okay. And fans continuously had to pay more money for this team that was 30-52 every year. And that's why every game they win, I tweet out like, look how far we've come, friends, because the futility has finally ended. And you know what? None of this should happen in the public. This should all be behind the scenes. You and I shouldn't have these people on the pods. It should all be about basketball. But guess what? The last 2 times I've heard from Glenn Taylor or via a press release from Glenn Taylor was before Nuggets games. Okay, so I don't think the players are distracted. You're there. I'm not. They don't seem that distracted. Carl and Rudy seem to have big smiles on their face last night. But it is distracting in general that this keeps coming up. And I wish it was handled behind the scenes. And the courts or the litigation courts or the arbitration courts will figure it all out. But to say that, after 2 decades of this thing not being on the tracks, it's finally good and I want to keep it that way. I don't know, man. It's really hard for me to not point exactly when the train got on the tracks. And I don't know then who gets the credit for that. I'm sure arbitration will figure that one out too. And they'll give a gold star to whoever traded for Rudy Gobert, who went 10 for 10 last night and dropped 25 and 19. That helped change futility. But do not talk to the fans in the media or whatever as if we're stupid, because we're not stupid. And this is one of the worst franchises in pro sports history, and it's finally kind of good. And everyone stay out of the way and let the product be good, and let Anthony Edwards ISO, because it's fucking awesome.
Man, I had no pettiness. I didn't really have a lot of receipts. And then after game 1, I don't know. I heard people call Wolves fans adorable. And that, I heard they say they really need to go through some adversity first. They really need to go through some stuff. Like, bitch, have you watched the last 20 years? Okay? This team is different. And everything that you want to be like, well, yeah, but, right? Like, I feel for Jamal Murray. That calf is really frustrating. Can't play the injury card because you beat this team last year without Jaden McDaniels or without Naz Reid. There's no card for you to play. There's no card for the Phoenix Suns to play other than that team is just flat out better than us, better coached, more talent, more physical. And that's what Denver's staring down now.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Grinning hard so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah.